For sale by owner is exactly what it is. A seller owns the property. They do not want to utilize a real estate agent. They want to sell it so they can get the maximum value out of their sale. But I mean, really to get to a for sale by owner, it's all about relationship building. You want to be really careful when you pull up a for sale by owner that you do your due diligence. Make sure it's a real property. Really hyper focus on, is this a real deal? Certainly make sure you let them know that any number that comes out is always subjective to any inspections. So getting to win-win, even when you get to the closing table, you can still do a win-win by doing the right thing.
Right.
I mean, that's the most important thing, is doing what's right when nobody's looking.
Thanks for joining us on another REI-NWA podcast. I'm your host, Coley Bailey, principal broker at Lone Rock Realty. And today we are talking about how to scoop up good deals with for sale by owners. And in studio with us is Cheri Bergez with OP2YP LLC. That's kind of a mouthful.
Yeah. Yep.
But I love that.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what that means?
It stands for our property to your property.
And that's your property management company or property.
That's my real estate investment
your
company.
investment company.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yes.
Fantastic. So we are going to be talking about how to acquire for sale by owners, how to get good deals, all of that kind of stuff. But I do want to start with where you're from, what you've been doing, how you got to doing what you're doing now.
I'm originally from Michigan and moved via Florida to Northwest Arkansas in 88. So I've been in the area for about 30 years, and I've watched an immense amount of growth in 30 years. We came and it felt like there was one stoplight in the middle of 71 and 412, and that's what I knew. And now we have bypasses, and so it's grown a lot. How I got started was in 2018, was separated from a company and decided that when I got my separation package that I would start a real estate investment company because it's always been my passion.
Yeah.
So hence, fast forward to 2018, I started OP2YP after attending a 3-day financial seminar and said, I can do this. And the day I attended the seminar, I said, you can meet with me and I can spend my money with you, or I'm going to buy a house. I had an appointment at 4 o'clock to look at a house.
Wow.
And it was the very first house that I actually bought in Farmington. And my very first flip, I still have it today.
Yeah.
It's kind of sentimental. So it was via a real estate agent. And then thereafter, I purchased a for sale by owner.
Okay.
That was my second purchase, and it turned out to be a lot more work than I anticipated, but a lot of learnings.
Yeah. But a good deal.
It was an incredible deal.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, incredible. So in 2018, the deals were much
It was a different
feasible.
landscape. Yeah. It was a
much
different
more
landscape.
feasible
Yep.
to make it work. So even if you had a little higher contractor cost or reno cost, you could still make a really good deal.
Yeah.
So holding some of those properties for a couple of years really turned out to be a huge benefit.
Yeah. And you've been a phenomenal member of REI-NWA over the last several years. Very inspirational because you went from that to now you've got over 30
properties
But
in a little over about 6 years.
Wow, that's incredible.
However, I do not recommend that a rookie do that.
It's like breakneck speed.
Yeah, it's really hard, especially if you don't have the background and experience in real estate and construction that I have. So I have about 20 years in real estate and construction, and have bought commercial properties, have managed deals for commercial properties, residential properties, strong banking industry, strong real estate industry for years. So I don't recommend it for a rookie on their first time.
Well, but there's just give them the inspiration.
Yeah,
though. I mean,
they can do it. Yeah,
you can definitely do it.
I did it. Yeah, you can.
Yep.
You get a lot of mentors and a lot of relationship building, and it can happen.
Absolutely, but there's a lot to learn. You never stop learning.
Absolutely.
So no matter where you start,
absolutely,
the journey is what matters. So
absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk about doing deals with for sale by owners.
Okay, sure.
So first of all, what is it's a FSBO? It's for sale by owner.
Sure.
Tell us what that is. And
So for sale by owner is exactly what it is. A seller owns the property. They do not want to utilize a real estate agent. They want to sell it so they can get the maximum value out of their sale. and it can be utilized through a real estate agent. There's some agencies out there that do promote for sale by owner as well as helping them list the property. So
Kind of
I don't
some
want
flat
you to
fees
think,
where it's
sure.
like $500, we'll put it in
Right,
the MLS or whatever.
exactly. And they'll also manage the paperwork for you for that fee. So it's not like you have to do it all on your own. They'll also give you guidance and direction. So I don't say that it's exclusive to just a seller of a property.
Right.
It can also include agencies, and it can include some other helpful mentors. It can include some industry experts. So I certainly encourage that as well. But for sale by owner is exactly what it is. The seller is selling their property. They are asking the same thing that you would see as a sales price out there. They should check their market comps, but I mean, really to get to a for sale by owner, it's all about relationship building, talking with someone on the street who wants to sell their house that might not be listed, finding that ultimate deal, right? I mean, that's what it is you find a for sale by owner sign on the ground and you call the number, and that's how it starts. It is definitely not owner financing, so let's be keeping those two clear. There's definitely two different things.
Two separate things. It could be.
It could be.
It could include
they could
that.
offer it, exactly.
But we're just talking about putting it out there for sale.
Correct,
They're not
yeah.
relying on a real estate brokerage to do
Sure.
that for them. They don't have an agent. They're trying to sell it themselves. So how do you go about finding those?
So really, it's more about, again, relationship building.
Is there any,
you might know a family member that's got a friend, parents are selling, or it might be you just drove by a property and there's a sign out up by the road that says for sale by owner, and you just call it.
Are there any like websites, or I mean, do you go on Zillow? Do you go to like?
I
don't know,
actually found my second
specific
property
things?
that I was just speaking of. My second property was off of Zillow, and a lot of people say don't trust Zillow, but a lot of for sale by owners are putting out there through
Right.
Zillow, because now Zillow has come up with a little bit more metrics behind you actually putting property out there, which is really good.
Yeah.
But still, you need to do your due diligence up front.
Yeah.
So finding them on Zillow is okay. A lot of individuals now are posting on Marketplace on Facebook.
Yep.
So you'll find that. There's a lot of network sites out there that are for sale by owner on the web. So you can go out and find those. I have found there are a lot of other networks such as Northwest Arkansas for sale by owners through the Marketplace. So
Okay.
when you go out and start hitting up other sites, a lot of times it's just individuals that will reach out to you when you say, hey, I'm looking for a for sale by owner in this area, and you put your metrics out there, what you need.
Yeah.
And that's how another area you can find them.
It's sometimes they're almost hidden even on regular sites like Zillow.
Right.
It's one thing a lot of people don't realize when they put their property out there on Zillow. Buyers actually have to, there's like a slider. You have to go into the filter of
Right.
Zillow and say, yes, I do want to see for sale by owners,
Correct.
because Zillow is really funded by real estate agents. Not everybody knows that. But yeah, all of the money that Zillow
Right.
makes is from leads that get
Right.
generated on there. And so they kind of hide the for sale by owners.
Yeah, they do drive you to the actual
Yeah.
listed properties first, so you do have to search it, and other sites do too. So you just have to really be focused on that and hyper diligent when you go out to the web like that on your own to make sure that you get the for sale by owner properties. Otherwise, you will have a bunch of real estate agents calling you, and they could be calling you from several other states, and they're not even licensed in the state that you're looking for a property. So that's the other thing, is you want to be really careful when you pull up a for sale by owner that you do your due diligence. Make sure it's a real property. Check the address. Check the owner. Don't ever release any funds to them. Don't sign any documents that they may send you or email you. Really hyper focus on, is this a real deal?
Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
Well, let's talk about win-win negotiations. Let's talk about getting into actually negotiating with a for sale by owner without an agent in between.
Sure. So when you have a for sale by owner, typically a seller has a price in mind, of course, and that's what you first want to ask, because the price is personal to them, right? It's their sentimental home they've had for years in the family, and you might actually offend them if you come in and say, I want to make you a lowball offer, and you have instantly lost the deal.
Yeah.
So it's always good to ask the seller, what is your sales price? Because then that second point of it is it gives you a starting point to say, okay, this is what your sales price is, but let's really just sit down and talk about what your property is, so I understand what financial burden I would have to getting it back up in shape if you're going to keep it, to rent it, or what renovations have to happen. And honestly, just having that heart-to-heart conversation with somebody, they will actually tell you here's everything that's wrong with my property.
Yeah.
And that's great. When you have that dialogue with them, you can actually just find out all that information. So then you can actually start saying, here's where I think I can be at. Certainly make sure you let them know that any number that comes out is always subjective to any inspections, any cost variations that may come from a trade, and a trade is like a subcontractor that would have to do the
roofer, an
roof.
electrician.
Correct,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you always want to make sure you caveat that when you're talking with them, and you're not going to surprise them. They know their home.
Right.
They know they have a 30-year-old home. It's not built yesterday,
Yeah.
and you're going to have some cost into it. But how you present that to them in a very meaningful, empathetic way
Yeah.
will get you to the win-win. My third deal was interesting because I bought it out in a Lake Sequoia area, and there
Okay.
was a elderly lady right next to me while watching all the flip I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And she was trying to sell her home to a church because she was needing to leave and her brother was ill, and so anyways they couldn't afford it no more, and so they started coming over and talking to me and telling me everything that was wrong with their house, and they wanted to sell it. And I actually tried to encourage them to, because I knew the market and I didn't feel
Yeah.
right, I tried to encourage them to ask more for the property.
Yeah.
And she insisted on her sales price with the church, and she said if the church fell through that I could have it for the same price.
Wow.
So I ended up getting a neighboring property just by having those conversations with
Yeah.
her. When we got to the closing table, they weren't going to be able to close because they didn't have the money to pay the taxes. Their real estate property taxes. And so I went ahead and paid that for them because I knew the deal I was getting, and I
Yeah.
knew it was the right thing.
Yeah.
So getting to win-win, even when you get to the closing table, you can still do a win-win by doing the right thing.
Right. Okay, so you can have other people involved in a transaction with a for sale by owner.
Sure.
So let's talk about that. Like, who else might be involved? Maybe you have an agent.
Sure.
Maybe nobody has an agent, but you go, I don't know, to a title company,
Sure.
right?
Sure. Yeah, one of the things that I start with the title company is I will ask the title company if they have a closing package, and they will usually email your closing package to you, and it has all of the information that they are going to need to do the for sale by owner deal for you. I always go through a title when you're transferring title company when you're transferring property. And then what will happen is you'll fill out all the paperwork. You'll give the buyer all their paperwork that they need to fill out, and then they can send it back to the title company, and you can send yours back. In typical packages from title companies, they actually have a real estate contract in there, a for sale by owner real estate contract.
Yeah, because title companies are owned by attorneys,
Right.
so they can write those contracts for you.
Sure.
They can do all of that.
Right.
I'm telling on the industry a little bit, me being a broker and everything. But yes, I actually tell sellers this all the time, especially
Yeah.
if they're like, well,
Absolutely.
do you want like discount off your commission, and then they're beating me up
Right.
on this. I said, tell you what, you can do it for free. Like you can
Exactly.
sell it. You don't even have to hire
Exactly.
me. You can do
Yeah.
all of it yourself if you wanted to.
Absolutely.
But then we offer different packages and stuff. Yeah, people can do these things on their own. And I've had people too that, say it was siblings,
Right.
somebody's wanting to sell their house to their sister or something, and
Yeah.
they're moving out of state or whatever it is.
Right.
I'm like, I'm happy to write it up, and I'm happy to take a commission if you really want that. But
Yeah.
you do have the option of going to a title company and kind of wrapping this up yourselves.
Right. And that's one of the things that you're saying, other
Yeah.
key players, is that I was trying to tell people, focus on, do you have a real estate agent that you know that's, maybe someone, your friend of your family, or do you have a banker, or do you have, I always recommend even an attorney if I have to. I don't like to do that because it's more costly, obviously.
Yeah.
But, I do recommend that they touch base with somebody they know. Most of the time when you're dealing with them, especially if you've established the relationship with them, you can pretty much walk to the title company and do it through the title company.
Yeah.
And they have that level of comfort
Yeah.
because they know it's a business, right? It's a business, so the business isn't going to do anything wrong. So from that comfort, I do tell them you should look at maybe reaching out to someone you know in the business industry, even if it's your insurance agent,
Yeah.
anybody, because someone who has a vested interest in the property that's been with you
Yeah,
through the
interesting.
years, you're going to be trusting in them
Yeah.
more than just some seller or buyer that is just walking up trying to buy. But also from a seller perspective, I also encourage them, reach out to the title company if you have any questions.
Yeah.
If I'm the buyer walking up looking for a FSBO, I'll say, hey, have you done this yet? Because I always want to be on the up and up. I mean, that's the most important thing, is doing what's right when nobody's looking.
Yeah, absolutely.
And taking care of, whether you're on either side, taking care of each other is what's most important.
Yeah.
I do like people to have comfort in deals that I do. I don't want them to ever think that there's any part of the deal that I'm doing with them that they're not comfortable.
And another thing is, in real estate, it's not a deal till it's in writing.
Yeah.
So the contracts do matter. And I know I just said, like, oh, take it to the title company. They'll do it. Do check their contracts, because the different title companies have different contracts.
Absolutely,
Some of them
they
are
do.
really thorough. Some of them are really basic.
Absolutely.
They might be leaving out certain protections, different things like that. That's why I would kind of raise a hand for the brokers and the agents to say, we do have a state-approved contract through
Right.
Arkansas Realtors Association.
Sure.
That is very thorough, really protects both sides. In the case of litigation, it's usually very clear where things stand, and that's the value in at least one of you having an agent,
Right.
I would say.
Sure, and I agree. I always try and recommend when I'm buying a property, I always recommend that the seller reach out to, like I said, an agent, an attorney friend, someone on their side, because I know how to negotiate, and I don't want, like I said, anybody to ever feel like that they haven't had that opportunity. Several people just say, no, we don't want realtors involved, but
Yeah.
that's okay. I understand they still had the opportunity, but I will always give them honest feedback. And, I've negotiated for sale by owner contracts over the internet. Literally just emails back and forth, and then we come to the deal, we just sign it.
Yeah.
Meet up and sign it, or sign it on the internet through DocuSign, something you can do an electronic signature.
Yeah.
But the thing of it is that I also encourage them, make sure from a buyer perspective, you get your inspections that you need.
Yeah.
Don't ever step away from that. You need your inspections. On a seller side, I make sure, tell them, get a title company involved or get an attorney involved. Don't just think that you're signing paperwork and you sign a deed and you own the property. It don't work that way.
Right.
Title is a fickle thing on property. I did some quiet titles. I took some lake lots, and during that time frame, it was interesting because all the individuals that lived around in the neighboring lake lots certainly had questions about the lot lines.
Right.
So I also encourage that if you're looking at a for sale by owner, that you bring in a surveyor and have the lot lines marked.
Yeah, especially if it's a bigger property.
If it's old property, because the property that I bought, there were no deeds recorded.
Yeah.
Everybody had a pocket deed, is what I call it. They stuck it in their pocket and walked away.
Yeah.
Or it ended up in mama's trunk at the house, and or grandma's trunk, however old the property is. And so there is no deed of record that transferred. So then you have what's called broke title. So I ended up having to do some quiet title, and I got some lake lots out of it. But the individuals out there insisted they owned what they owned, and so we had to collect deeds to even figure out where the lot lines were. It was quite the interesting adventure, but again, that's why I encourage, get some of the professionals in the industry, get a surveyor, even if it's a brand new property.
Yeah.
I still encourage you. Contractors can have their lot lines moved by from a
That's true.
a plumber or anybody have footings being dug. They can have any lot line encroachment. So I highly encourage at least get your lot lines marked.
Yeah.
If you're not going to do a full survey, at least get your lot lines marked.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's a lot to go into there.
Yes.
And we are going to be going into even more of that at our upcoming Rookie Nook.
Yes.
And this is going to be how to get a fast start in a tough market with for sale by owners with Cheri Bergez. It's going to be on July 25th, 2024. It's going to be at the Whole Hog Cafe. So come get some barbecue.
Absolutely.
And
Bring it.
as always, it's $20 at the door, $0 if you are an REI-NWA member. And of course, if you are a member, you have years worth of backlogged programs, just like this one coming up, that you can look at all the way back to, I think, 2017.
Yeah.
Something like that. There's so many.
So much information.
So
out
much
there.
information contained within that. So definitely join up if you haven't yet. And other than that, we'll see you there. It starts at 5:30. And
Come hungry.
come hungry, and we'll get started at 6.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Well, thanks for joining us on this episode of REI-NWA Podcast. We'll catch you on the next one.